of people. It's, it's good to have a podium because you can see my hands and legs shake. It's good. Um, so good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. First off, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here and learn from, the best in the business of practicing kata. So thank you for that. Um, this is my second KataCon, and I met Oscar last year, at Savannah. So as soon as I met him, a few things were immediately obvious. First off, he knows the TWI and the kata like the back of his hand. But then as I got to know Oscar more, I found out that he's someone who truly lives the values of these practice routines, TWI and kata. He's someone who can empathize, like really put himself in your shoes and trying to understand what it feels like to be on the other end of the spectrum. He's an active listener, and he lets the learner do, okay, fail, and then you learn something from it. He will never make decisions for you. Something that I had to rethink because we went out for dinner one day and he ended up ordering dinner for the whole table. So sometimes he does that. But there's one more reason why I like Oscar, and it's very personal, and I'm starting to choke when I think about it. He's that one guy at KataCon that I could talk to about cricket, a game that is so dear to Indians like me, and a game that my American friends cannot comprehend. So with that, over to Oscar. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Raghavan. I didn't know what you were going to say, and that was well done. And that was true about ordering dinner. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, so kata is the thing that helps you develop the way. Last year in October, we had a week in Japan studying standardised work. There was a group of us there from the Institute, and we were talking about Toyota Kata at dinner, and Richard Abercrombie said that. He said, kata is the thing that helps you develop the way. And I've got a poster on my wall in the office at home, and it says, if you can't explain things simply, you don't understand them well enough. And when Richard said that, I thought, yeah, that puts it really does put it in context. But even more so, I think we've got to keep a balanced view of what we're about in here. And remember that a kata is a thing that helps develop a way. So there's more than one kata, there's lots of kata out there. So to help balance it, kata is a thing that helps develop a way. So that begs the question, what is the way we want to develop? So what is this way that we want to develop? And that way we want to develop is scientific thinking. Scientific thinking, a mental framework for approaching goals and obstacles or problems. It's a continuous comparison between what we predict will happen next, seeing what actually happens, adjusting our understanding and actions based on what we learn from any difference. So what question does that beg? We've answered scientific thinking, but what question does that beg? Why bother? Why bother with scientific thinking? Why is that important? What if scientific thinking, I don't understand it? I need to know why that's important. So let's have a look at why. Why is scientific thinking important for us now? Because right now we are less sure than ever of what the future looks like in the business world and overall. So that corner is getting closer and closer and closer to us. The degree of difficulty of seeing around that corner is getting harder and harder and harder. That's reality. So those who get to that corner and can adapt will be the most successful. So the most success will come to those who are best at adapting. In other words, when we get to that corner in the road and we can't see around, we have to be not fearful of that. Because if we can think scientifically, then we're going to be able to adapt and we are going to be okay. So that's the importance of scientific thinking. There's a further importance, and thanks Mike for this, wherever you are in the room. It's one of your favourite. I use this a lot, that we need to reduce the incidence of breathing our own exhaust. So what happens when we quite often get to that corner now, the corner on the left, is that people use their biases to predict, to anticipate or plan what's going to happen and how to get around that corner, but it is based on their bias. So what happens then is we're in a room and someone else has a bias. and we've got two biases or more in a room, what happens? And we're trying to work out how to get around that corner, what happens? Not argument maybe, but debate. And who wins? The loudest voice. And we make ourselves feel good by knowing what will happen beyond what we've experienced. So we preach to our own biases. But if we stop breathing our own exhaust and get better at scientific thinking, we improve, adapt more effectively and efficiently. So why Toyota Kata? Why Toyota Kata? That leads us towards that. So as Mike said many times, there was a lot of studies done and copying of the visible stuff, the results, the lean tools and practices, and through Toyota Kata was the identification of this less visible stuff, a systematic scientific way of thinking and acting, and managers of teachers of that way. But let's have a look at this word CI. Genuine CI, the word continuous, is that an adjective, a verb or a noun? Come on, you Americans, you must know that. So it's an adjective. So continuous means what? Happening all the time? So if we're really going to continuously be improving, then we're not going to want to be relying on the CI department or the CI expert. If we're really going to be continuously improving, if we genuinely are going to be doing it, then who's got to be thinking scientifically? Is it the CI expert? Everyone, particularly the people at the coalface, the frontline leaders and the people who work for them. If we're really going to continuously improve, we're really going to do that, not sporadic improvement, then we need to be adopting this less visible stuff. Just one thing to add in that Toyota Kata is not, and correct me, Mike, if you're in the room if I'm wrong, that Toyota Kata is not. So when Mike and his researchers studied Toyota and other suppliers, they did not see a storyboard with 5 things on it. Thank you. They did not see a storyboard with 5 things on it. They did not see a pocket card with 5 questions on it. So let's be clear on that. They didn't see those things. What they did see were those 2 behaviours, and I think it's worth going back to the 2 research questions that started all this, just to ground ourselves, because none of us would be in the room if it wasn't for these 2 research questions. The first one was, what are the unseen managerial routines and thinking that lie behind Toyota's success with continuous improvement and adaptation? So the answer to that question was that. The second research question was, how can other companies develop similar routines and thinking in their organisations? In other words, answering that first one would not have been enough, and I'll show you why at the end of the presentation, of this brief presentation. So what is Toyota Kata? There are 2 kata, and these are the answer to the second research question. A kata is a pattern you practice to develop a skill. There are 2, the improvement and coaching kata. The improvement kata, if we practice it enough, remember, only through practice, we'll develop a systematic scientific way of thinking and acting. The coaching kata is what helps us develop as teachers of that way. This is the visible stuff to start with. The kata is the visible stuff. It'll only become less visible through practice. There's no silver bullet. So what is the improvement kata? Again, you'll note there that it's the means to develop the systematic way of scientific thinking and acting. Step 1 is get the direction or challenge. Customer orientated, remember, can be an internal customer. And the other thing that I haven't heard said for a while, I think it was Beth Carrington about 2 years ago at KataCon, I heard her say that the direction or challenge can be the link between the vision and the activities on the factory floor. And I really like that concept. I really like that concept. It's the connector between the vision, which is sometimes a little bit out there, and activities on the factory floor, which is 2, 3 and 4. And then 2 is grasp the current condition, where we focus on facts and data, not just data alone. If you've only got numbers, you don't understand the current condition, because the numbers are a product of something. The numbers are a result of something. What is that something? Unless you have that something noted and are really clear on it, then you haven't grasped the current condition. So that's facts and data. And then the target condition is step 3 of the improvement kata is the desired operating pattern for part of the current condition, the desired operating pattern with an anticipated outcome metric attached to it. Something we're going to strive for between current condition and the challenge. And then what's the question that's ideally asked as soon as we've got our target condition? As soon as we're clear on our target condition? And if there's a number of you who are in the class that I ran, and if you can't answer this, I'll fail you as a teacher. So as soon as we establish target condition, what do we say? Stephanie, come on. Don't let me down. As a leader. As soon as we've established, you bloody New Zealanders, they always let me down. Sorry. So the question that's asked straight after you've established your target condition is, why can't we do that now? And what will people say? I can't do that because. So what do you write down? Bang, bang, bang. There's your list of obstacles. Soon as you've established target condition, make your list of obstacles. And then what do? Pick one. And then conduct experiments to get there, which is PDCA-based experiments, always making sure that that there are measures in place to support the prediction. Then the coaching kata is the second one. Remember, through practice, it links in with managers as teachers of scientific thinking and acting. You all know that, most of you will know the questions. What's the target condition? What's the actual condition now? What obstacles, reflection when we look back? So this is the key part of the scientific. I've got my actual condition. I'm going to look back and see what I've just learnt, and I'm going to consider my obstacles. So that's the scientific bit. And then what's your next step? And how quickly can we see what we've learned? So they're the coaching questions. So why was this second research question so important? Why was this second research question so important? Because models alone won't change our behaviours. And Mike, thank you for this, I use it a lot. Hoping to create new behaviours by explaining or trying to convince people doesn't really work. The explanation may be correct, but it does not change us. So in other words, what he's saying there is, if all he'd done was, he and the researchers had just focused on that model, it wouldn't have changed our behaviours. Telling alone doesn't work. So in response to the second question, we have these katas we can use to practice. So am I at 15? Oh, good. Because before I finish, if I can go back, off topic but sort of not, how many of people here have heard of the play called Come From Away that Dwayne mentioned? So for those who haven't, it's a play about 9/11. So when those planes hit those towers in 2001, there was about 100 jets or more between Europe and America. And a number of them didn't have enough fuel or couldn't turn back for whatever reason. And American airspace was closed. So 38 jetliners landed in Newfoundland. So Newfoundland has an airport that's quite large. There used to be planes used to land there before they could make the distance across the Atlantic. So it's quite big. Jets used to land there. But since they could make the distance, that stopped. So 38 jets landed in Newfoundland because they closed American airspace. And so the population of that area went from 9,000 to 16,000 in about 2 hours or 3 hours. So the play is about that story. And I saw it in Melbourne about 3 months ago, and was talking to someone about it on Monday, I think it was, and it's running here in Austin. I went to see it again last night. Every American should go and see that play. Please do yourselves a favour and go and have a look at it. It meant a lot to us as Australians. To you guys, I can't imagine what it would have, how much it would impact you. And if you want to see examples of people who can adapt at the spur of a moment and demonstrate leadership, go and see that play. And so I'll just finish by saying, and adding to Dorsey's comment, ask lots of questions. The only thing I'd add is, even when you think you understand, please ask questions, because it might build it even further. So if you ask questions and learn from this summit, when you get to that corner in the road and it's a bit foggy, you're going to be much better able to go around it and it'll be much less fearful. So thank you.